Hello, welcome back to the journey of my YouTube channel. Today I am talking about last month's reading because it was my biggest month of reading ever. I finished 10 fiction books in July, which I know for some booktubers is not that many, but for me it is easily my record. I have never read like that in a month before. That was crazy. Like a weekend I had already finished 3 or 4 books, which is partially because I had made a lot of progress in these books in June, so this is almost like a June and July wrap up because there were several books that I just didn't quite finish in June. But according to Goodreads, I finished 10 fiction books in July. I also finished one nonfiction book called Living by the Book, which will probably be my favorite nonfiction book of the year. That was really good. So I'll just do a quick recap here of those 10 fiction books that I finished. Since it's a lot of books, I won't go into a lot of detail on each one. It won't be like a full review, just like a quick recap of what it was and in general what I thought about it. Unfortunately, I have very few physical books for this one because I got a lot of these books from the library and I've had to get them back, and quite a few of them were also ebooks, so I'll be adding a lot of images later to this video. So the first book that I finished in July, I am not looking forward to trying to say the name because it's from French, but it's something along the lines of La Mort d'Arthur, which I just prefer to call King Arthur because it's much easier to say. Massive 900-page book, and it was kind of fascinating in a lot of ways, especially the parts about like the character relationships and family dynamics. It was like, okay, that's kind of interesting, except it was also usually like really gross. There are some messed up people in relationships in that book, and so much of it is actually just very boring. There's a lot of jousting and fighting. There's this person beat this person and this person beat this person, so like large sections of it felt like they didn't even need to be there to me. I had such mixed feelings about it, but it is helping me enjoy the TV show Merlin more, so that is definitely worth something. Next was The Girl the Sea Gave Back by Adrienne Young, and I'm not even going to talk about it because I already made a video about it, so just watch my video about it. Next was All Creatures Great and Small by James Herriot, and I do actually have the physical book for this one. So like a lot of people recently, I think I kind of read this because of the PBS show, and it was fun. It's very aesthetic and atmospheric. It definitely feels like you're there, which is fun. It's really just a whole bunch of short stories put together. It felt a little bit dull to me at times just because there wasn't a lot of overarching plot progress, and it was just more and more stories. It's pretty long. There are like 64 chapters, so it feels long without more of a structure. But especially near the end, I really started getting more interested in it again. There were some more like continued stories, continued threads among the chapters, so I was enjoying that more. But yeah, it's fun. It's more of like a quiet, cozy, relaxing read than I usually do, which I think is part of why I was like, why isn't more stuff happening? But if you like that type of book, then this will probably like be your favorite book ever. The next book I finished was Coral by Sarah Ella, which is a Little Mermaid reimagining that really focuses on mental health. And I thought the mental health exploration was done really well. Storyembers.com actually has a blog series about how Coral dealt with mental health, which I will link to in the description because it will probably cover that way better than I could. I did think that those aspects of it were good, and there are 3 points of view, and it was really fascinating the way those 3 were connected. I had never seen something quite like this done before, so I was like so curious about how these 3 POVs were related that I just like kept reading and reading this thing. I read it in like 2 or 3 sittings, I think. I was not really a fan of the romance in it, which I feel like I say about most books that have romances in them. I'm extremely picky, but yeah, some of the plot stuff at the end too didn't really connect with me, and I could write a very long and thorough review, but that's not what this video is. I have a lot of thoughts on this book because there were some things that I really liked, and there were some things that that I would have done differently. So it's a very interesting book to read, though. It's again kind of different from anything else that I'd ever read, and it was a very quick read. So if you just want something that's very memorable and unique without a whole lot of time investment, then maybe that will be a good pick. Next, 5th, I read Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, which I had never read before. This is my first time going through the series. I read Sorcerer's Stone last year, but did not get back to the series until July. So I have a hot take on Chamber of Secrets because it is actually my favorite of the series so far, and I've read Prisoner of Azkaban and about a third of Goblet of Fire now, and Chamber of Secrets is actually my favorite so far, which again, I don't necessarily want to get into a bunch of details in this video because I'm trying to get through the books quickly. It's not going that quickly so far. But I really like the mystery, even though, I mean, it starts with just a cat getting petrified, which is not massive stakes. But I thought that the build-up of the mystery was really cool. It just got more and more intense. And then, like, the entire last quarter of the book was just, like, plot twist after plot twist with a lot of emotional impact. There was some villain monologuing, so, you know, that was a little bit funny. But yeah, just overall, I really enjoyed it. It was fun, and I guess I can go ahead and talk about Prisoner of Azkaban because that's the next book I finished after Chamber of Secrets. I was like, okay, I need the next book now, so I went on to Prisoner of Azkaban next. And I did also enjoy that. The mystery felt a little bit less intense to me, ironically, because like the stakes should have been way higher. So again, maybe this is just me, but I didn't feel like the buildup of the mystery was quite as strong in Prisoner of Azkaban, and the climax, the concepts I really liked. The execution felt a little bit messy. But I loved the greater emphasis on Harry's parents in that thread. I really enjoyed that, and again, just a lot of plot twists and a lot of emotional payoff and fun characters. So yeah, still really enjoyed it, and it definitely made me want to get to book 4 right away. Next, 7th, was Children of Dune. So I have a video talking about Dune and Dune Messiah, which is the second book in the Dune series, and this is now the third book in the Dune series. And it has some interesting elements, and like I actually mean that, like interesting things, enough to keep me reading, although I did consider DNFing a few times because by this point it's just so weird and so depressing. Like, I know for some people this is when the story really gets interesting because it's more complex, but it is really too complex for my taste by this point. Like, I like complex characters, but when it seriously gets to the point where there really are no good guys or bad guys anymore, it kind of starts to lose me because I'm like, who am I rooting for, and why do I care, and why does it make a difference that this story is happening if everybody is as bad as the next person? So I was not a huge fan of this one. I am not planning on reading any more Dune books. I still think that the first one is really impressive. They're all impressive in a lot of ways, but the series has kind of been declining as it's gone, in my opinion. So yeah, I would recommend the first Dune book. I would not necessarily recommend the following ones. Okay, next, 8th up, Phantastes by George MacDonald. So this is a fantasy story, like a fairy story in the old classic sense of the term, from the 1800s. So it was really interesting to see, you know, what did a fantasy book look like in the 1800s? It had a lot of imagery that was really interesting and creative and visceral. So I enjoyed that, but all of the different images felt very disconnected. It's like this character goes from one place to another place to another place, and I did not see a whole lot of connection between these events. Like, there was a plot, but the progression was a little bit hard to track. It felt kind of like a dream or a series of dreams more than a coherent story, and it kind of had an impactful ending. But George MacDonald was a huge inspiration for C.S. Lewis, and I'm like, how about I just read some more C.S. Lewis, because I think he kind of took what George MacDonald wrote and made it a little bit more palatable for modern people, maybe. Okay, number 9, The Runaway King. So the second book in the Ascendant series by Jennifer A. Nielsen. I mentioned the first book in the series, The False Prince, in my mid-year freakout tag video, so I will also put up a card for that one. So it's middle grade, non-magic fantasy with like mystery and court intrigue and a really funny protagonist who has a great character arc and everything. So after the first book, I was excited to read the second one, but then it just kind of didn't do it for me. I don't know that there was anything particularly wrong with it. If I had any critique, it might be that the main character never really developed a clear plan. He just kind of kept being like, now I hope when I get there that things work out. So I think that was maybe part of what just didn't pull me through this story as much. I didn't really find myself wanting to read it, which was strange because I liked so many elements in it, like the characters and the relationships and the stakes and like all of the ideas I liked, but just the execution was not really holding my attention. So maybe I just wasn't in the mood. Maybe at another time I would like it more, but I decided not to read more of the series right now. But I know a lot of people love the whole series, and again, maybe another time I would be in a better mindset for it. Okay, last but not least, the 10th book that I finished in July was Robinson Crusoe, which is another one that I was like, how have I not actually read this before? But I found this really old, beat up copy in an antique shop on my trip to Nashville, and I could not resist because this is another book that could kind of be considered research for my high seas fantasy book that I'm writing, because ships and oceans and islands and such. So I had heard very conflicting stuff about this. I had heard both that it's incredibly boring and that it's this riveting spiritual journey. And after reading it, I definitely understand both of those. I really didn't find it boring. I mean, the parts where he's gathering stuff and making stuff, it moves pretty slowly sometimes. It's basically like watching somebody play Minecraft. Like this book is 1700s Minecraft. But it is also a story with some pretty interesting things to say about contentment and making the most of what you have and realizing what's really valuable in life. So I actually ended up loving this book. It's probably one of my favorite classics that I've read. It's not too long. Some classics are just so intimidating because they're so big, but this one really was not that long. It didn't take me that long to read. So yeah, very worthwhile story, I thought. Okay, I will let that do it for my July recap. I was thinking about doing my August TBR in this video too, but it's getting a little bit long, so I think I will make that a separate video. But make sure to comment below if there are any books that you want me to kind of expand on, if there are any books I read this month that you're kind of interested in and you want to know some more of my detailed thoughts on them. I can always give you some more info on what I thought about them, although I ended up giving more details than I intended to already. I was going to be quicker than that, but oh well. But before I go, I do have a t-shirt of the week for you, and this is a fun one. This is my Marvel Defenders shirt, which is one of those t-shirts that's like, how do I have this? But I was on a Bible quizzing team called Defenders, and there's a Marvel show called Defenders, so obviously we needed the t-shirt from the Marvel show, even though none of us have watched it. I don't even know who these characters are. I think the one in front is Doctor Strange, but don't quote me on that. So yeah, that shirt makes me laugh. It's great. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know what books you read in July, which ones were your favorite and least favorite, what are your favorite t-shirts, and what books you are reading in August. See you next time. Bye!